welcome to the June edition of the IrisBG Coffee Chat. My name is Laura Murray. I am the GIS Coordinator and Community Outreach Assistant for IrisBG. With me on the call is Mari Rustin, Marketing Director and Product Manager for IrisBG. Today, you'll get to hear me present from my other hat that I wear. I consult with the Memphis Botanic Garden, and I've helped them start up their plant records database from scratch. So using IrisBG and Esri. So we've begun our trek on preserving biodiversity and institutional knowledge as their lead director of horticulture of many years is retiring. So needed to capture all of that. We will have Q&A afterwards. And again, the coffee chats are for all of you. If you would like to have a question answered or share something that you have been doing, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. Send us questions of what you'd like us to address, or if you'd like a demo of a demonstration of how IrisBG works. Here is a map of where everyone who registered is from. We have quite a few from all across the US and in Europe as well, and even in Australia. Hooray! So we really are a global community. Yeah, just to begin, I'd like to share a poll just to gain an understanding of where everyone's coming from, their experience with using IrisBG. Looks like it's a good mixture of novice, intermediate, advanced, and a few people still trying it out. The next poll I wanted to ask before we get into our presentation is a little bit about mapping. Do you use maps while you're record keeping? And if so, did you use it just to configure the locations in IrisBG? Do you use the mapping module? Yes, we use the mapping module as well as ArcGIS. Yes, we use the mapping module in IrisBG as well as other mapping services, whether it's QGIS, OpenStreetMap, Google Earth. And the last one is no, but we are interested. So it looks like most people use the mapping module within IrisBG, and there's a good portion of you that use ArcGIS and a few that use something else or only used it for the initial configuring. That's really helpful. Thank you, everyone. So moving on, there's a lovely shot of our gardens. We love sharing those. So I started a little bit more than a year ago with the Memphis Botanic Garden. Right now we have this fun exhibit of Alice in Wonderland, so that's what the picture is. But again, it was a project to both preserve the biodiversity that's contained in the garden and the institutional knowledge of the horticulturalists there before they retired. That is irreplaceable. So a little bit about the Memphis Botanic Garden. It's 96 acres, 30 individual gardens. It's been around since the 1950s. They recently had a whole rebranding campaign and made a new map. So there's our lovely visitor map. So the Living Collections Committee realized that they were going to lose a lot of this knowledge when Rick Pudwell, their horticultural director, retired. So the goals of creating a plant record system were to preserve that knowledge, but also make that plant inventory available to the public. They really wanted it to be searchable and use it as a teaching tool. Also, it was important to map and track the memorial trees a little bit better. So when a family would come in that had donated money for a tree in honor of someone, that they could find that tree and track its health and replace it if need be. So just a better management system for that. And also use the database for maintenance and research moving forward. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the workflow, starting in Iris, moving through ArcPro, then to ArcGIS Online, and then into field maps and all the way back. So it's a dynamic process. It's a very, as you know, keeping plant records is, you need that attention to detail. So we'll just kind of go through some of the technical aspects of how I set up that workflow. And please feel free to ask questions. All of our record systems are customized, so individual questions are definitely welcome. So I started off creating that base map. We're fortunate here that every year the county is flown at a high resolution, and that the planning department shares that with local government entities, and the garden is owned by the city. So I was able to get that high resolution aerial. And then I created vector tiles in ArcPro so that we could zoom in at a larger scale. The locations layer that you use just for reference in the background, I had the Living Collections Committee really set that. They had a good understanding, so they were able to walk around with the tablets and refine that. And then I created center points to be the GPS reference in Iris. So that was our workflow for that. These layers were then uploaded into ArcGIS Online, and they use them as the reference base map for all of their tasks. We worked by individual collections. So the garden has a certified arboretum that they had tracked for a long time of 180 species, but they didn't have the coordinates necessarily. The staff knew where they were. So I wanted to create a workflow where they could take that list that they had in Iris that had the accessions numbers and all the wonderful data that tells whether or not it's a critically endangered tree. And we exported that and combined it with the points layer that we had created for other gardens. And I'll walk through that. So I exported two tables, one, a list that didn't have coordinates, and one of a table that did have coordinates. So then I brought those tables into ArcPro, and I brought them into the database, geodatabase that I'm working with. You have to add global IDs to both tables. Then there's some geoprocessing that has to happen. So for the point layer, I added that XY data to the table. So that became the point feature. And then I created a relationship class between the point feature and the table. And I had that be the full accession number. I also added the metadata fields for collecting high accuracy points because they use a GPS receiver. And then once those layers were created, I uploaded those into ArcGIS Online. And then I don't know how many of you are familiar with ArcGIS Online, but you take that base map and add the point layers. You can create bookmarks, set up the labeling so that it displays the accession number or the scientific name, depending on what you'd like to see pop up on your base map. I added the tables that were of the non-georeferenced accessions, and I saved the map. You bring it into field maps, and we open up the field map, and you can start configuring that form that will pop up on the tablet or phone, and you save those changes. So here's a screenshot of what it looks like on my phone. It works just the same on a tablet. So on the left, we're standing by a tree that they know is in the arboretum. They create a new point. They know the accession number, it's labeled on the tree, so that was helpful, but they also knew it. So we type in the accession number, and then in the bottom left-hand corner, there's the set of links. You can click on the links and find, it will link based on the item accession number, and you can verify that that is the record that is in Iris. So in the points, it records the accession number and the high accuracy coordinates, and then you know that you have the right record. Once you've collected all the points for the garden or collection that you are creating coordinates for, then you go back into your ArcGIS Online portal, navigate to the hosted layer, and you can export to Excel. And then importing back into IrisBG, it's important to, when you're opening it in Excel, make sure that you have the attributes, only the attributes that you want to update so that you don't overwrite data that you didn't intend to. We have a whole blog post on what's required for importing that's really helpful. But here it would just be the accession number full and the Latin long that I would be updating. Within IrisBG itself, it's under the maintenance tab, data import, and you click on the folder and navigate to the file that you saved in Excel that came from the portal. Really quick overview, just a little teaser. We have, if you're not a GIS professional and all of this is overwhelming, there's a sync coming, and you don't have to be a GIS professional to use it, but it'll have that flow of going from Iris to ArcGIS Online and field maps and back. It's coming. We hope to talk about that soon. But if you have any questions, feel free to email me Iris, but I also want to put a little plug in there that if there's more technical assistance that you need help with, I'm part-time with Iris, and I also have my own company called Magnolia Maps. So feel free to reach out to me there as well.